All right, we'll get things started this morning. Our first speaker will be Mike Tearoe from Enmax. This morning's sessions, as you can see from the brochures, are kind of related to collateral things related to irrigation. This one is related to energy. Mike joined Enmax as a strategic account manager in 2018. And was recently appointing Acting Director of Energy Solutions Sales. He oversees Energy Solutions portfolio, which offers a wide range of products and services, including energy plans, solar, and infrastructure services. For over a decade, Enmax has connected agricultural operations across Alberta with energy solutions to help them grow. He possesses an in-depth knowledge of Alberta's energy sector, having more than 20 years of business development experience and technical expertise from his work in oil and gas, manufacturing, and the service sector. He brings strategic thinking and professionalism to his customer relations and tailors solutions to customers' unique energy needs. Mike has been an Albertan since 1987 and currently calls Calgary home. During his career, he also lived and worked in Edmonton, Red Deer, and Grand Prairie, which afforded him opportunity to forge a deep understanding of Alberta's people, businesses, and community. Join me in welcoming Mike Tearoe.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today on behalf of Enmax. As my introduction states, I'm relatively new to the utility industry and just recently took over the solar portfolio for Enmax. And so I've been learning and getting to know some of the projects that have been going on around the industry in southern Alberta, in the irrigation district specifically, as well as many other things that it's afforded me. Some of the conversations that I've heard and some of the presentations and some of the visits I've had at our booth next door kind of prompted me to kind of tweak a little bit of my introduction, just because a lot of the questions I get asked are actually about what are energy prices looking like. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit before I get into the actual business case around irrigation pivots and how it relates to solar. And maybe I should just do a quick introduction. So new to Enmax in a year, a lot of questions. People actually don't understand what Enmax is sometimes because it's a bit of a confusing landscape. So Enmax is a wholly owned subsidiary of the City of Calgary. They are the wire service provider inside that district. And then Enmax also participates in industry outside of the City of Calgary, and that's where energy services come in. So Enmax truly is a fully integrated energy company with generation assets, both wind and natural gas, transmission and distribution assets within the City of Calgary, of course. We have a wholesale desk, so a commodity trading desk on both the energy side and the gas side, so that supports our retail business, and as well as competitive energy, which is kind of all the other services that sit underneath that, which I'll expand on. So regulated, non-regulated, so these are the competitive energy, and in the introduction, we talked a bit about the retail side of the business, and we have account reps kind of roaming all over the province. You have a choice for energy, I guess, is the main thing. So the electron itself, it's a competitive landscape, and you can choose providers for that energy from multiple different vendors. Enmax is one of them. And then power services, so we have a full complement: engineering, design, field services, infrastructure. So power linemen, power service engineers that work in transformers, transmission, distribution lines. They'll work within the City of Calgary and all over the province as well on a competitive basis. So we'll bid for that work in the competitive marketplace. And then we also have, of course, what I'm here to talk a bit about is our distributed generation, solar, CHP, and all the services and offering behind that. So engineering, full turnkey projects, as well as our billing, customer care, EasyMax. That's stuff that you see when you get your bill, when you sign up with a retailer. You get basically, there's a whole support function, all based out of our Calgary office. It's all local that supports all that kind of energy side and the billing factor on power and commodities. So I thought I'd start with just kind of a little update on, so like I said, everyone that stopped by to talk to me asked me a bit about what are the prices? what's energy prices doing. So I thought I'd kind of just start there. This is basically an indicative retail electricity index price. So you can see the trends. Power is very peaky. There's all kinds of demands that affect this cost. It's the pool prices change hourly. So it's a very dynamic kind of environment. So you can see, I mean, this is actually a good setup for some of the reasons when we get into the business case around solar about how power is used and the impact on your business potentially. So I thought I'd share this slide. So this is on peak history. So 5x13 is just to get so you guys are clear on nomenclature, it's the 5 business days, so Monday to Friday, the 13 hours out of the 24 hours. So it's basically like from when you get up in the morning to when you go to bed, basically. So everybody's up and working, going to do their daily tasks, whether it's work, school, anything else. So, and I kind of highlighted the middle months because as this ties into, you know, in the summertime and in the spring when irrigation starts happening, these are the types of kind of peakiness that you can see around the power prices. So I'll just kind of point out January 2020. I think everybody remembers that terrible week when it was like minus 35 and no one wanted to leave their house basically. So I don't know if anybody would have seen the news, but it was all over the ISO, and there was announcements made about the strain on the system. So the transmission generation system was under tremendous amount of stress because we need a lot of power when the temperatures go way down, right? So understandably on the irrigation side, in farming you're not running your pumps in the middle of winter, but this shows that volatility around the pricing and the impacts on the system. And they kind of happen everywhere. So if you look at a bit of the history, again, you can see the prices kind of range drastically. 2017 was kind of a low point. They were super competitive. I would call it the bottom of the market on the energy side for what the electron will actually cost you. And then you can see the variations through the years. So there's lots of reasons why these prices spike all over the place. Some are in our control, some are out of our control, but it just shows you that it's a very volatile marketplace. What I might touch on before I get into the business case for solar, for pivots, one of the other big changes, obviously we had a provincial government change. There was a rate cap as well in place of 6.8 cents a kilowatt that was imposed. That rate cap, when the new government came in, was removed. And there is new volatility in the marketplace. So it kind of supports all this stuff. So that rate cap, you know, was basically being funded when you got those peaky prices on those peaks. Basically, the government was funding that through, I believe it was the carbon tax. Don't quote me on exactly how they funded it. But anything when that price spiked above was basically subsidized by the government. That is no longer the case anymore because that rate cap has been removed. So that's a big change with the new provincial government. One thing I'll also touch on is that there's, on the pool prices, there's a $999 peak pool price. There's also movement in place to try and remove that cap on that top price, pushing it upwards to allow, you know, higher prices when the demands really, really spike, right? So it's trying to create that open market, competitive market for power. So these are just things in behind, and I talk about them because those are kind of the questions that I get asked. What is my price today on power? Why is it so much? What are all these things driving it? It is a complicated market out there, but you know, we try to help you, and we can help you beyond just what the solar business case is. We can also help educate you on what the future of the market pricing goes as you're trying to look at your business, look for efficiencies, all that type of thing. So that, I guess, leads me to basically, you know, this business case for solar, for pivots. So I kind of just summarize this in terms of, you know, it depends on your outlook for energy. You can look back at historicals on what your energy prices may cost, or you can look forward. What are the forward market trends for power prices? What are growth? Is there new generation? I imagine all of you look at this when you kind of run your businesses to understand what are my cost exposures and cost to operate. So it really depends on your long-term. Solar is a long-term play on energy. It's pretty predictable. We know the sun comes up, goes down. We can trend very closely exactly those hours of sunlight and the types of things you can generate. But it has limitations. It produces in daylight hours only. Long term, because, you know, we were talking a little bit, I was talking to Margaret a little bit about, you know, the irrigation district's been here for, what I heard, 100 years or more, and I don't think it's hopefully going anywhere, nor are your farms and businesses. Hopefully they're here for the long term. So, you know, it's not just an investment, although we're going to talk a bit about return on investment. It's not just about what it pays you back in 12 months. It's what pays you back in the long term and what your vision is for long-term energy. In my introduction, I do come from oil and gas. In oil and gas industries, when we do a project, if we were building a facility, new facility, a gas processing facility, those oil and gas companies do have very, very aggressive rates of return. They want to see payback in the high times, oil and gas industry, 6 months sometimes. So they want very, very fast payback on any of their investments. That's changed, obviously, with the sector, but you guys would be looking at this the same way. What is our return? What's our horizon for the return on that investment? Solar profiles very well for peak irrigation season. So, you know, you all operate and are looking to operate your pivots, your irrigation on your own schedules, depends on your crops. And I don't profess to be an expert, but I've learned a lot from sitting in a lot of these presentations. But you're always looking at ways to be more efficient. But solar, you know, you have great sunshine down here in the southern province, part of the province, and it matches very well with when you will be running those pieces of equipment. So operational efficiency, you know, obviously renewable, predictable. That's something that we provide a bit on our solar portfolios, as we'll show you kind of your production profile, and we'll support that basically as a guarantee as a part of our product service offering. So long-term price certainty and offset greenhouse gases, and it's becoming more socially acceptable. Sustainability is a big buzzword in the industry on all facets. It doesn't matter if you're in the food sector, agriculture, oil and gas. Sustainability is a very broad term, but it is certainly becoming more socially acceptable. Some of you that have, maybe if I could actually just get a show of hands, because I know there's some people in here. Does anybody in the room, just by show of hands, actually have solar installed currently? So there's a handful of them. We've done some big projects here in the south, but I know that, again, it's kind of new technology. It's how does it fit with your business? This is just basically a map of basically showing the hours of sunlight as it compares to other areas of the world. So Alberta and the area you can see kind of right in the middle of the graph is an excellent place for daylight sunshine hours. My parents live in Vancouver, and they miss living in Alberta for the fact they never see the sun near as much as we do here in Alberta. So Enmax solar product overview. So for those of you that have dealt with us, you know, we've had successful installs. This is how we basically present to our clients and clients like yourself or businesses. We are fully a turnkey installation and operation. So right from, you know, initial idea to supporting basically any economics evaluation. Obviously, we can bring to the table basically all the power pricing modeling. But our projects team do all permitting, design, procurement, construction, commissioning, and then, of course, the full warranty afterwards as a part of our service offering. And then these are some of the behind-the-meter advantages. The other piece of my conversations from visiting with some of you in the last day or so has also been about fixed prices. So we all know the energy price, but then you also have fixed prices on transmission distribution that you're trying to offset as well. So reducing peaks in your usage, basically, and how you consume power. So typically, what we do, if any of you are looking at it, so again, we are here to help you kind of understand how it may fit into your organization, your business. How do you operate? So we'll sit through with you and basically look at load profiles as a starting point. This is basically taking site data from all your meters, taking a look to see how you use and consume power, talk to you a bit about how solar will fit, and it's all a part of our modeling process. We run a software where we'll actually look at systems, whether it be a ground mount, if you have land, unusable land, non-irrigated land, or large buildings maybe in your farms or communities that you can basically install solar on. We'll look at both options for you based on how you you might like to do the installation. And then again, I already talked about the return on the investment. So everybody is different. That's one, like no case is the same. Everybody uses power differently, and you probably all do as well. And you are motivated different ways. So we will work with you directly to kind of figure out how the economics might look best for you on some kind of solar installation. And again, full turnkey. I think it's important to know that Enmax is also aligned with local dealers, Enmax approved dealers, so that working locally, supporting product locally. It's not just we're based out of Calgary, we're working with those dealers in those all over Alberta basically. And full warranty support, you know, we're warranting, I'll go into it a little bit more, but you know, it's a big part of it. A lot of questions people ask, well, how long do these panels last? What happens if they get damaged? You know, what if they get covered with snow? How do they perform? They get dusty, dirty, all that stuff. So we kind of go through that as a whole product support kind of scenario. So this is what a model might look like. So I've kind of taken the client out of this, but this was one kind of, I just wanted to share with you kind of how we would go about and step through this process as you try to evaluate if this is a fit for you. So here's a ground mount. So the client who is looking to offset some of their power with the solar install for the pivot, this is where it starts. Basically, we have software. This is a ground mount, so you don't see any buildings. If there was a building underneath this model, of course, we would profile that exactly to the usable space on the roof. But here's a 520 kilowatt solar array ground mount. We will show you what the production will be based on your location. So it's site specific. If you're at right in the southern end of the province, or if you're in Grand Prairie, you know, we will profile that exactly to where the location is on the hours of sunlight, and that's all tracked accurate data for average hours of sunlight. And then we'll kind of break it down. We have options, so we have strong partnerships with solar panel vendors, inverter vendors, racking vendors. This one here in particular is LG panel, so we'll show you all the details you need to see. Calculate greenhouse gas emissions, the whole works. So you can see that profile that I showed up there before was going to produce basically almost 700 kilowatt hours of production for the first year using a LG panel. There's different, as I said, different technologies out there, different solar panel vendors, and they all are slightly different. Some of the LG happen to be 400 watt modules. The module is a single panel. And we also represent Hanwha, but there's lots of options out there for solar panels as well. So ground mount system, and this system as it designed, so the last point here is it actually was going to offset their total power usage for the pivots that they were wanting to tie that solar to. So past that design side, then this is kind of where the finances come in, and you have to look at, well, what's it worth? What's it going to cost me? Because truthfully, it is a capital outlay. Like one thing since I've been kind of dealing with solar is that there's a capital cost, but it's about that return. So there is an investment being asked of the business person to understand, hey, this isn't, when we say net zero or become net zero, there's still a cost for this capital to install it. So, so this system, that 520 kilowatt system, the purchase price at the time, this is a little dated information, is about, you know, roughly $1 million. Price per watt, so that's just a price per watt installed. So that's the full turnkey kind of development that I touched on earlier, all the way through the process. So that we turn the keys over essentially to you, and the system is now yours. We all know that the funding landscape has also changed. So there was a big push in 2018, 2019 through funding. It was upwards of 35% from the MCCAC. I believe there was also some farm funding available. There's lots of avenues for funding, but at this point, this was the down payment. So this was grant money that would go down as basically your down payment on the system, and then we would turn over the finance system going forward on a 15-year basis. So your purchase price post-funding, roughly $800,000, which gets you to that $1.52 installed solar. So that's kind of the important number that we get to through our financial analysis with our clients. So, and the system comes with 1 year labor plus 12-year inverter. So that's when you convert your DC to AC, and then the module guarantees. I won't get into big details on this isn't about going into the exact details of the panel and how they perform, but if you have questions afterwards, you can come talk to me about it, obviously. And then the client retains all the environmental attributes, and that's all a part of our cost analysis return. So there is a finance option again that this happens to be the client at the time wanted to look at different ways, and the reason why I show this slide is simply because when you're dealing with us, we will try to work with you on what works best for you. We've come up with all kinds of different arrangements financially, payment-wise, systems. We're just very flexible, and I think this slide is really just trying to show you that not every deal is exactly you show up at the car dealer and you get 3% financing and it's over the 48-month lease. Like we're trying to make this work for our clients as best way possible, and to get them to invest and make it attractive to them. So this would be a pivot simple payback. So again, this is all tied to the economics I showed you earlier. You can see the negative bars here basically are kind of the initial production. So you can see in this case, what is it? It's about, they call it a 10-year payback based on this graph before the solar system starts paying you. So, when you're looking at capital investment, how's the best way to spend your money? This is, again, part of our kind of analysis to show you, this is in behind this is basically what's the cost of the power today, what's the cost of the system, what do we think the future prices of power will be. We account for inflation, but we will work with you as the client to set those parameters on how you want to see it. I say that again because Calgary Co-op, one of my clients in the city of Calgary, was looking at solar, and they had very specific return on investment parameters that they wanted to evaluate. So we tweaked those numbers so that when they went to their board and presented it to their board, that they hit all the markers that they needed to make an investment of this kind. So this was all included in our evaluation with our clients. So that kind of is really just an example. That kind of presents the business case. What I offer up is we're always available to have these discussions with you. We understand there's a lot of, call it education. It's not always simple trying to figure all this out, this math out. But we're here to help you kind of model that. And there's no commitment to engage us on that front. We're here to kind of try and educate and help you on that. So Enmax solar installations, and I'm going to kind of end it here for now, is so in the last 2 years, we've installed over 31 megawatts of solar, both ground mount and roof mount. In the last 2 years, that doesn't include previous years, but I kind of had to kind of show you a bit of a picture of our experience. I touched on our dealer network that is across the province. They're strong dealers with a very high service rating. They're close to these communities. They're invested in these communities to try and support those businesses. And then our strong vendor relationships with all our materials. So as I touched on, solar panels, inverters, and racking. So that's all I have for you today. I didn't put up any, if anybody stopped by my booth, you've seen some of the installs. There's a bunch of pictures I won't share with you, but I thank you for your time, and I'm available for any questions that you guys might have. Thank you.